Okay, so we're dealing with from graphics to branding. Graphic design, obviously, as we know, is using graphic design software to create. You're basically creating on a blank canvas anything that can be seen digitally. Graphic design is very, very broad, right? So under graphic design, you have illustrators, you have brand designers, you have motion designers, you have UI/UX designers. Graphics is very, very broad. But then we're going to be narrowing down a little bit because what most people think of when they hear graphics is logo design, maybe Instagram posts, stuff like that. But then now we're going to be dealing on creating brand identities, which is what branding is. So before I go ahead, here's a little about me. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm an architect and a designer. So I'm also a brand designer and brand strategist at Terrific. And I've been in the field since 2018. And I started as a freelance graphic designer. But immediately after my first job, I actually didn't enjoy the process because it wasn't that fun. I felt like I should be doing a lot more than just doing a logo for somebody. So I started to do more research and learn more, and that was when I started my agency, which is Terrific now. And I started to call myself a brand designer after that, after I learned and practiced. So here's what we're going to learn today. First of all, we're going to learn tips on how you can transition from a graphic designer to a brand designer. We're also going to understand the concept of branding. We're going to learn from one case study of a popular brand that we know, and also talk about the money matters, because some of the questions that you guys have asked already have to do with getting clients and all of that. So let's first of all establish what the difference is between a graphic designer and a brand designer. So I'm going to just read it on here before I explain. So a graphic designer is a professional within the graphic design and graphic art industry who assembles together images, typography, and sometimes motion graphics. The graphic designer creates a graphic primarily for published print and electronic media, such as visual and advertising. Some graphic designers have more diverse skill sets, making them proficient in web design, illustration, and animation. So here, from here, you can see that graphic design is very broad, and it's not necessarily in line with logo design. Like, as you can see, logo design wasn't even mentioned here at all. So we already know how broad graphic design is and how many fields and how many things you're designing for. You're designing for print, you're designing for media, you're designing for advertising. It's very, very broad. But then when it comes to being a brand designer is the creative expert whose job focuses primarily on creating cohesive and recognizable brand or visual identity for companies or products. So as a brand designer, you are working hand in hand with businesses to put those businesses in front of their customers, the way they should be viewed. So we're talking about visual identity, basically how their customers will see their brands, right, their business. So brand designers mainly design brand identities to suit new businesses or assist in redesigning and updating existing brands. So the very normal rebrand that we hear of, like After Effects just recently rebranded, I think last week. So it's a very, very common, it's a common thing that happens, especially in the tech space. This includes things like logos, color schemes, typographies, and overall visual identities. Now, the thing is that usually a lot of people confuse these two together. And because of that confusion, we lose the depth of what brand design actually is. As you can see here, it's not just logo design that was mentioned. You have logo, color schemes, typography, and overall visual style. It's more than just a logo. So logo design is like just one tiny bit of it. Now, before we can actually get to understand how to develop brand identities for businesses, we actually have to understand some basic terminology, trying to understand what a brand is. So a brand is a set of distinctive perceptions, ideas, and feelings that people have about a company, which sets it apart from their competitors. Basically, your brand is what your customers think of you. So when they say someone has a brand, it's different from when you say you have a business. You can have a business without having a brand, right? So how Coca-Cola can say they have a brand, because when you hear Coca-Cola, there's something that you feel when you hear their name, when you come in contact with their adverts, when you come in contact with their product. Same thing with Nike, especially because Nike is for people that play sports. They have a personal connection with their shoes because of how Nike portrays their shoes, their product to them. So that's basically what it means when you have a brand. Brand strategy is a plan basically to achieve the creation of this brand. So before you even start to create brand identities, as I think brand identity is the last thing. So before you even start to create brand identities, you have to also come up with a plan. You don't just start doing the process without having a strategic plan. And usually this is done by brand strategists. Brand strategists are experts at coming up with strategic, moves when it comes to building identities for brands. Branding obviously is the process of shaping the perception that customers have about the company. So branding is the process, while brand identity is a collection of tangible brand elements that together create one brand image, such as logo, color, typography, and voice. There are still a lot more. We'll still, delve into that. But brand identity is now actually what you see or what has been created. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So now we're going to talk beyond the logo. So I've mentioned color, I've mentioned typography, and logo. These are the only ones I've mentioned. But let's see what we can actually do aside from a logo. By the way, just to give credit, this is a brand that Seraphic worked on recently. They are an Instagram show that basically shares, they have Instagram live with people that have gone abroad. So people that haven't gone abroad or are abroad can relate to other people's experiences. That's what they do. So the first thing beyond the logo is the elements of a brand identity. We need to understand each element first so that we know what we're actually supposed to do as brand designers. So now the first thing is the brand voice. So the first, second, and third are things that are not visual, while from logo downwards are things that are visual. So let's look at it that way. Now, before you ever do any design, the first step is never the logo. If you start from the logo, you miss the mark already, because remember, you're actually creating an identity that portrays what a business is or portrays what the business wants to, in the eyes of their customers. It's a psychological thing. And when you're dealing with psychology, the first thing you actually come across is words, things that you hear. When you go to a psychologist for treatment, they don't give you stuff to see first. They actually hear you out first. So that's what you want to do when you're working with brands. And based on what you hear from your clients, from the business owner, you're able to come up with a brand voice. You're able to see how this business owner or how the brand or the business wants to speak to their customers. So this voice is what you're going to portray, and you're going to basically shout this voice out in visuals. The next thing is brand language and messaging. So now we already know what the tone of voice would be, but how exactly are we going to put together those words that it can relate to the people that we're targeting? So, for example, this brand here, Japa, their first brand messaging, or I'll call it a quote or a tagline that was used across the brand, was just another person abroad. That's the full meaning of this Japa that you're seeing here, just another person abroad. Now, in order to make this more relatable, we started to add things like, visa, they give me wahala, and have you janded yet? So those are words, statements that people that come across Japa will be able to relate to. These part of things that you do as a brand designer. The next thing is tagline. So obviously, as we know what a tagline is, Nike, just do it. So it's like a statement that just goes along with your logo, helps to kind of communicate the entirety of the brand in just one sentence, right? So that's what taglines are for. So these are the first things that you basically think about first. And then when you put them down, you're able to come up with concepts already, even before doing your research for when you're doing your logo design and the rest. So the next thing you have obviously is the logo, which I feel like a lot of people know about. Everybody knows what a logo is. And a logo basically is just an identification mark. A logo is not something that tells the story, the beginning of the story, right? So a brand identity, obviously, if you see that, no, don't even see that as a story, it is a story. So the beginning of that story is the logo. See it as, oh, I'm a human being, and obviously I'm living my life. Imagine your life is a book, right? You're living your life, and your life is a book. The face that you carry on your body, which is you, which is obviously the business in this case, is what the logo is. So it's just the face, just an identifying mark, so people can recognize you with that logo. So when I mean your logo doesn't tell the story, it's just the beginning of the story. You don't put everything into the logo, right? So by just looking at it, it should be in the simplest form. It should have literally just one element in it. Either you're doing text, either you're doing icon, or you're doing both, or you're doing a still graphic. Whatever type of logo you're doing, it should be as simple as possible, because then it's just an identification mark. If you start to bombard it with a lot of things, it loses its identity. You're not exactly able to kind of understand what you're looking at, right? And then by the time you put it on small surfaces, you lose the logo itself. The next thing is the color system, right? I have a slide for this. We're going to look at what a color system looks like. Color system isn't just one color or two colors or three colors, right? It's a lot more than that. But it's basically an arrangement of colors that, portrays the brand the way it should be. Colors are very psychological. I would explain more on this on color slides. Then we have typography system, same as color system, and then photography system. The next thing we have is brand assets, patterns, graphic assets, shapes and forms. And also we have brand guidelines. So I'm going to go over them while explaining the brand design process. So yeah, whenever you have a client first, a lot of things that people do wrong, I'll say, I'm just say graphic designers or designers in general do wrong is they give room for the client to direct their creativity. Now, what you want to do as a designer is to hear your client out and then tell your clients that they can trust you. Basically, the way you ask your questions, the way you interpret your answers, gives them confidence that yes, no matter what you're going to do, they're going to like it because you understand them. So this discovery call is a call where you actually have to communicate with your clients on a personal level, get to understand where they want to be with their business and all of that. That way you're able to establish that connection of trust and they're not ordering you around when you're, doing your work. I feel like some of us might have experienced that, and it's very, very annoying when the client is telling you to move your mouse this way, move your mouse that way. It's annoying, right? So, but then this discovery call session is a session that you can use to erase that completely. And then also another importance of a discovery call is to get to understand the brand on a personal level, that's business on a personal level. Now, being a brand designer, you're going to have to put yourself in the position of the entrepreneur, that's the business owner, because you have to see the business the way the entrepreneur or the business owner sees it for you to be able to create the perfect identity for that brand. So that discovery call, you're going to be asking a series of questions, right, that would help you to have enough information about this business. So I'll see if I can get a sample of a discovery call question sheet to show you guys after. Now, this is the next stage. Now, after you've done your research, you've done all your findings, you've done everything from the client, right? You've gotten all the information that you need from the client. Then the next thing to do is to do your research. Now, there's a saying that says that there's nothing new under the sun, right? You should learn how to be able to get inspiration from other people's work without stealing their work. Now, your research phase, you might feel like I think, oh, I'm copying somebody else's work or not. No. Now, this screenshot here that you're seeing is part of the research that was done for Silver Touch. So Silver Touch is a fake brand. It's not real, right? But I usually do that when I'm practicing and stuff like that. And it's a luxury jewelry brand. Now, this was the research phase for it. You soon see what I came up with somewhere in the slide. But usually your research phase is to get enough inspiration for what you're going to design for your clients or for the business, right? So you can use sites like Behance, you can use sites like Dribble. Google also works. You can also use Pinterest. There are different portfolio sites that you can use to do your research. Now, a lot of all these pages have their keywords. So you can also use keywords to search so you're able to get exactly what you need. Now, what you're doing with this information is to come up with a stylescape. Now, a stylescape is as you can see, is an image, right? It can be printed, but it's something that you show to a client that, lets them understand the direction that their brand identity is going to go towards. Okay, so now this is the one for Silver Touch that I put here, right? But then before you can actually do a stylescape, you have to have a mood board. So a mood board is like a more scattered version of this. Just imagine like a dump of images into one Illustrator file. That's pretty much what a mood board would look like. Or you can use like mood board software if you prefer that. Or usually you start to kind of put together a direction based off of the information that you've gotten from the client during the discovery call. So now this particular client really made emphasis to comfort, a calm vibe, something that was relaxed, but still looked elegant at the same time. So that was what the direction that this particular stylescape went through. And then by the time you present stylescapes to your clients, they're able to see the direction that you're going. So you can present 2 or 3 stylescapes. So then they pick the one that they are more drawn to, or they can combine stuff from different stylescapes, right? So once they're able to pick a stylescape, the chances that they will ever disturb you and say, oh, they don't like something is very, very low, because then they can already have a visual image of what their brand would probably look like even before you even started doing the logo design. So now after the stylescape, obviously your logo sketches and design. So this is sketching phase for Silver Touch, and then this is what I came up with for Silver Touch. So your logo, as you can see that there are many, right? So what people are used to is having just one logo here with comfort and elegance. But then you forget that logos are actually used on different surfaces. You're not just using your logo in one place. So you are doing logo design that would be used on merch, that will be used on flyers, that will be used on banners, that will be used on packaging, different things, on documents, so many things. So you have to think about the unlimited possibility or the unlimited possible uses of the logo while creating your logo system. So we have obviously the full presentation logo, you have the main logo, which is what that will commonly be used. Then this is called a seal graphic. So usually seal graphics are used for seals, company seals, for situations where you have to probably seal your packaging, things like that. So these are also examples of seal graphics that can be used as well. And then you have banner and tag logos that can go for packaging, that can go for documents, envelope seals, different things like that. So this is what usually a full logo system would look like. So this is presenting of a logo. So this particular one was done by Lindsay Marsh, and this is a very good example of a logo presentation. So usually when you present this to your clients, I'm definitely sure that they will not be saying, oh, change the entire logo. They can't do that at this point because they can see the level of professionalism in it, and you will definitely not be charging 5K or 20K for this kind of job. So obviously, being a brand designer and charging more as a brand designer is justified when you're going through this process. So this is what a logo presentation would look like. Now this is the color system. So after you've done your logo presentation is actually for you to get approval from the client and get finalized with the logo. So most of the time when you are finalized with the logo, they kind of like just leave the rest to you. Like they don't complain at this point, except if maybe the client is a very touchy one. Like there was a client that I worked for once, and he really wanted a yellow color in his brand, and like it was kind of like a fight, not really fight, but you get what I mean. So there are some clients like that, but usually at this stage, once they're finalized with the logo and they agree with it, then you go ahead to develop the system, and then you show them the system, and then they're okay with it. They kind of just leave the rest to you, so you kind of like have your creative freedom at this point. So here's what a logo system looks like. So this is one image, is another image, so you don't get confused. So this here is an example of a logo system. So you have five main colors here, and then for each color you have different levels of it. So as you can see, when you want to pick colors, when a graphic designer wants to pick colors to use for maybe print designs or advertising or anything like that, they have a lot of colors to pick from for different use cases. So you're thinking of what exactly would the graphic designer, or even if it's business owner themselves that are doing anything for their brand, I need to give them a lot of freedom so they're not confused on what to choose. There are options for them to pick from, right? So that's basically why a good color system like this is important. Now, some brands have, okay, so just in case the call goes off, you can just rejoin with the same link. We have 10 minutes for this particular call, so we'll just rejoin with the same link. So for some brands like this, we have, like how you can see this one is like different shades of blue. So sometimes you might have like different primary colors, different like bold colors, basically. So a color system can be in different ways. Now I mentioned that color is actually psychological, right? Every color has a meaning. So when you're picking colors for brands, you have to make sure you understand the meaning of these colors before you actually pick for them, because each color actually gives off a vibe when you come across them. Obviously, everybody knows, for instance, that red is danger. But then if you look at this shade of red here for Netflix, it's actually not the red that is danger red, right? So there are lots of things, like when it comes to picking colors, researching the meaning of the color, making sure that the colors actually go together. I would recommend a site called Adobe Color when you're doing color research. So it has like the whole color wheel map that you can use to make sure that colors actually pair with each other. And then you can just use Google to search for meanings of colors before picking colors for brands. Now, this is what a typography system looks like. So a typography system, you're not just saying that, oh, your font is maybe Railway, that's the name of your font, or the name of your font is Montserrat, figure it out yourself. No, you're actually going to test out by using this typography to create something, just to make sure that when someone wants to create maybe a document or something like that, they are able to actually know what to use and it looks okay. Because sometimes when you're using different, when you're trying to create maybe a catalog, for example, you're not going to have the same size of fonts all through, because then you have to consider hierarchy. These are principles of design. You have to consider hierarchy when you're designing these things. So you also have to consider that when you're creating the fonts that you're going to send out to your clients once you're done. So you have obviously your H1, H2, H2, H4, H5. This also helps with your UI UX designer or someone that's going to design the website for them. They're also able to like figure out which one is heading 1, heading, because this is a website parameter, call it a parameter. And then here you have the lead font, the body text, you have codes. They have a particular font style for codes, and they have capitalized fonts, they have small and tiny. So like when you know that, oh, I'm going to be putting contact information on a flyer and something that will be tiny in the corner, you know what to pick, right? You have this for body text, you already know what to pick. So this one will probably be for body text for social media, 16 points, and body text for documents would be the smaller one. So that's basically what the typography system would look like. So now we have brand assets. So brand assets are things that go along with the brand identity aside from the logo or the colors. There are things that like you can use. Like for example, this is a Christian community, right? And then this signifies enlightenment and then being children of God. So this is the brand assets, right? So it's not necessarily a logo, it's not a color, but they're just things that like you create that people can identify with. So we're going to see more of that when we look at the case study. Then brand application. So every brand identity that you work with will definitely be applied somewhere. So this is just an example of application of a brand identity on social media. Your brand identity can be applied on brochures, on catalogs, websites, can be applied anywhere. So everything that you've done as a brand designer is just to create the foundation of that brand identity, right? And then they have liberty to apply this anywhere they want to. But then sometimes you can get some clients that will ask you to do everything from beginning to end. And that's actually where agencies come in, because agencies have the large team that can encompass this particular level of work. So basically, sometimes clients say, do my social media, do my website, do my video ads, do everything for me, right? So obviously, you as a person can't do that by yourself. You might have to work with other people on like, you know, this I'll give you this percentage of fee, that kind of thing. Or usually they work with agencies. So basically, this is an example of what it would look like. So these are brands that actually exist. And I'll be honest, sometimes when you do things like this for brands, they actually never follow it. So like this brand is the one that's actually following this design thing, because if you go to their page, just another person abroad, you actually see that they have some stuff posted, color theme and everything. And they actually have a designer on their team that is doing a good job. But then in this case, you go to their page, you get what I mean. But you guys can check that. But this is why brand guidelines are very, very important. So brand guidelines are documents that you put together for a graphic designer to be able to use the identity that you've created the right way, to make sure that they do not falter it. So now if you look at this particular page, I just took a screenshot of this particular page of this brand guideline by Lindsay Marsh. And if you look at it, the color codes are there in Pantone, RGB, CMYK, and web, right? That's the hex code. Now this is, and then she also has an example of what the combination of colors you can use and cannot use. This is an example of what a guideline is. So having a guideline like this to give a graphic designer, and sometimes you might actually do a guideline and then if they still don't follow it because the person that is reading it is not a graphic designer, that can also be an issue. But then just make sure that you create your guidelines properly in order to make sure that your brand is actually used the way it's supposed to be used.
You can just say hi in the chat, so I know you're seeing my screen before I start. Okay. Okay, awesome. So this is Fort Canvas's website, and one thing I would say is I want you as a graphic designer that is aspiring to be a brand designer to have a network of design agencies and other brand designers that have gone ahead. So I'm going to do everyone a favor and just put together ones that I've come across, at least in my journey, because I'm going to everyone is going to get access to recording and my notes. So you guys should just look out for your emails. Look out your emails for everything. So one thing I always do is I go through the portfolios of other people and I look at the portfolios of agencies, especially because I run an agency, right? So everything I'm going to show you today from PiggyVest branding here on Photocovers page might be something that you cannot handle by yourself. But there are obviously ways, going about it as a designer. When you get a project like this, you don't always have to turn it down. That's why having a circle of designers is very good. So you can just say, oh, what's up, my G? Like, I got this job and I can't handle it by myself. Can you join in to assist with this part? I'll give you this percentage of the cut of the fee, like that. So, or usually you can just start an agency. Well, it's difficult, but it's doable. Yeah. So this is PiggyVest brand identity. And first things first, they actually told us about PiggyVest, but we already know what PiggyVest is and we understand what they're trying to do. But what they did here was actually a rebrand, and they talked about the previous logo of PiggyVest. One way they actually did it was to kind of show. So like if you look at, so I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's an outline of the previous one under it. You can also see it here. So there's an outline of the previous one under it. So that's kind of like how they showed that it was a rebrand. So that's how I knew that it was a rebrand. So here they actually showed that this was what they previously had. Now, when the previous logo of PiggyVest is not different from the new one, actually, it's not very different. But we understand that they used a padlock as their icon. And basically, they lost the sense of community in it. Basically, the people that are actually using the app. So that was the major point of rebrand that Ford Canvas looked at. And that's why they changed the lock to a human. So if you look at it in the logo now, it's a human and not just the padlock. But yeah, so after the logo, this is the previous logo, this is the new logo. And then this is their typography system. Usually when you're doing case studies is not as detailed as a brand identity guideline. So this typography system is not the same system that you see in the brand identity guideline. This is just for show. Now, your case study is for people that need your services. They are not necessarily designers, so they don't really know the difference between both. But what they understand is the simplest version of it. So they understand that, this is typography that was used. And then you have more information on the brand. Now, if you look at it here, we already see that they did more than the logo. They also did website design here. They also did the mobile version of their website, and then they also designed the application. I'm not sure if they did the application. Let me confirm. Okay, they did icons. They did icons. So this is called icon graphics. So they did icons as well. But let's not skip. So here we have merch, and we can already see some patterns around. These are brand assets, and then you already see this pattern here. Though I'm not sure PiggyVest has used this actually, but it's nice to see this here. This is my first time seeing this. It was my first time seeing it today. So we also have some merch here as well. And then this like presentation of their website, of the website they designed. They also did icon graphics, as you can see, homepage, message, the earn, the PiggyVest stories. Some of us are familiar with this. You can look at this hamburger icon here, right? It looks different. That part is curved. And if you notice, the reason why it's curved is because most of all the other elements actually have curves, and that's because of the logo. So if you look at the logo, let me see if I can find the logo somewhere without scrolling up. Okay, no, I can't. So if you look at the logo, okay. So if you look at the logo, there's a lot of curvature with it. Even from this video that was shown here, you would notice that they curved the edges. So it was first of all sharp before. Okay, this is a long video, but if you watch it from the beginning, yes, the edges are curved. So they maintain that curvature around even to the icons. So this is an identity that is in connection with each other. Every element is connected. So you can notice that slight curve in every icon that was created here. And then these are also other icons as well. And then you have more of the website. And then you have, yes, the mobile app. Yes, they actually did design the mobile app. So they also did the mobile app as well. And you can also see that the buttons on the app, they have that curve to it. Everything literally has that same curve to it. The icons, these are the buttons for the apps. The app rather. And then this is a peek into their brand identity guidelines. So you can see This is a logo guideline page saying how you're not supposed to use the logo. You're not supposed to put a shadow under it. You're not supposed to change the color to purple. You cannot stretch it. You can't do this blue and purple mix. You can't use this outline type of thing. This is the peep into their brand identity guideline. So you can see that it's more detailed than this is their color system here. So like, again, you can see that each color has like different shades. It's not just like one color. So when a graphic designer is using it, they have more than one color to pick from. They're not confused, right? So this is basically a detailed brand identity guideline, though it's not so clear. And basically that's the end. So this is a full-on brand identity. And as you can see already, it's a lot more than a logo, right? It's a lot more than a logo. And if you've been charging 5K, 10K, 20K for a brand identity work, if you're going through this process and showing this to your clients that this is what I'm going to do for you, I'm creating a full brand identity system for your business that will take your business to the next level, because there's no how. I mean, look at PiggyVest today. I mean, this brand that they worked for here, YouVerify, we already know YouVerify sponsored BBN, was not last year. I don't know if they did this year, Sha, but this is a popular brand as well. You can also, like, in your free time, take a look at it as well. So you can already see the result of what a full brand identity gives to businesses. So when you're getting clients as a brand identity designer, you know the value that you're giving to your business. If all of this did not exist for PiggyVest, everybody will have a different feeling of what PiggyVest is. Everybody will approach PiggyVest in a very different way. Let's be honest. So you already know the value of yourself as a brand identity designer. Agencies charge in millions. They don't charge in thousands. I mean, as high as 20 million, 30 million, that's how much they charge for identity design. So if you as a brand designer that is handling, like, you know, the smaller parts of, maybe you're not doing website or app development because you don't have that skill yet, you're just doing merch and packaging and like normal stuff, you should know that you're not supposed to be charging 5,000 or 10,000. Even you yourself doing this type of work, it's not even be doing you well to charge such an amount. Do you understand? Because you'll be like, for all this stress, this work, and then these projects usually take long sometimes. The highest we've done for a brand project is 1 month. That's at my branding agency, 1 full month. If you're going to eat for 1 month, how much would you spend? You're definitely going to spend 10K or 20K to eat in a month. So you should know that, yes, you are valued more, you know, when you are able to deliver more, right? So that's everything on case studies that I have to show you guys. I'm going to talk about the agency. So now, as a graphic designer, like I said, graphic design doesn't necessarily mean that you're designing logos, right? From beginning, we already see that a graphic designer is doing basically everything else except for the logo. So if you're the type of person that you actually still like being a graphic designer, you're okay with being a graphic designer, there are a lot of things you can actually do. And the best place for you to work is actually working under an agency. You can work under an agency. You can also work on by yourself, right? It's still a good one, but working under an agency kind of makes things easier for you. You get your monthly fee and things work for you. But still under an agency, you have roles like brand strategists, motion designers, illustrators. So like most of the things that we saw here was not done by one person, right? So a web designer would do this. That's a UI UX designer would design a website. A UI designer would design the app, right? An illustrator would do the icons because that's what they do, they illustrate, right? A motion designer would do the logo animation, like that. So that's basically how the system is when you're working on projects like this. So if you as a brand designer, you have a large project like this, you know who and who to call on. When you need assistance, you know that, okay, I'm not looking for a graphic designer, I'm looking for an illustrator, or I need a strategist, not a motion designer or not another graphic designer. So there are different professions that exist in this design space, especially, you know, design for businesses. Okay, so that's everything that I have for you guys. We'll be answering questions soon. But before I go into the questions, I would like to talk about some other things that we have for you guys. So everything that I've talked about is just like the foundation of things and like basically what you can do as a designer. But then, like, if you notice, I didn't mention a lot on the theoretical aspect of design, which is very, very important because a lot of people skip that. I don't know why, but in school, when we're in secondary school, we already know that when you're doing physics, there's theory, and like the theory is actually what you apply in practical. So you can't just start designing without understanding the concepts and the principles of design. So everything on this class here that is coming up soon is going to be on the theory of design. It's a paid class. This one isn't free like today's one. It's a paid class, and it's going to be more, we're going to have a lot of time. We could actually spend up to 2 hours, 30 minutes or 3 hours talking about this. So it's for 1,500 Naira, and I'm going to put the link in the chat while we're answering questions, and so that everybody can have access to it. If you would like to pay for this immediately, it's happening soon, probably end of this month or beginning of next month, depending on how our class calendar is. So if you've gone through Ghanaian Art School's website, you actually see that there are like classes every week, almost every week. So it's going to be coming up this month or beginning of November. Then another thing that I also want to share with you guys is our paid course coming up. So everything that I've shared with you guys, the practical of it, giving you the step-by-step guide on how to actually go on with this process. We have a course that's coming up next month as well. And the course is on pre-order. I'll also send the link to the chat so that you also have access to that. And it's on pre-order for 10,500, I think. 10,300, yes. So it's 50%. You're paying 50% basically for being on pre-order. So you can also enroll for this. It's coming up soon. November, by God's grace, is going to come up. It's already in production, as you can see. I mean, you guys are already seeing some bits of it there. So yes, it's coming up already. So these are two other things that I would suggest and I would encourage you guys to enroll for. There will be other free classes, and we'll also be able to get mentors. Like for this paid one, we're going to be able to get people that will come on board to actually teach you, other professionals as well. We're trying to see what we can do on that. So there's going to be a lot more in these particular paid programs. So that being said, before I talk on Ghanaian Art School, let's have a short Q&A session, and then we'll round up to talk more about Ghanaian Art School. So if we have questions, we can ask in the chat, but I'm going to go through questions that were already asked before we started. So some of us have already asked some questions before the class. So the first one is, how do I brand and position myself as an expert in what you'll be teaching? That's what someone asked. So I think Joseph is here. So Joseph is the creative director at Serifix. I think he would be answering that.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's nice to have you here. If you can hear me, please just send something to the chat so I know that you.
I can hear you.
Okay. So the question was, how do you position yourself as an expert in brand identity design? And I have a couple of things to say as regards to that. First thing is something that I picked up from a Gary Vee video a while ago, and that's, we need to try to shift our mindsets from trying to be experts and focus more on being enthusiasts, right? And what does that mean? So if you focus more, in my opinion, while I was thinking on that, my opinion, basically one expert is just a consistent enthusiast, right? So you are enthusiastic about brand identity design. You look into things, you do your research, you practice, you study, right? And you work on projects. You work on projects to the extent that your work speaks for you, right? And one of the things that you can do to help your work speak for you is to prepare a portfolio, right? So a portfolio is something that advertises you specifically. If you recall from the class, Shiva showed us a brief client presentation, right? A presentation of like everything you've worked on for a particular client project. That is to sell the idea of the project. But now a portfolio is to sell you. So you're sharing the things you have done. You're putting your best work forward. You're trying to, mock it up in a very presentable and eye-catchy way. So people are interested in what you're doing. And also, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, just focus on doing what you do, right? Focus on improving yourself, right? Your work will always speak for you. Most times it's the work that speaks for you, right? Most times the work that speaks for you. For instance, now, if someone else if another fintech comes across a piggyvest brand, they'll be curious as to who worked on it for them. And upon doing their research, they'll stumble upon your website or whatever link or the portfolio that you've prepared, right, with regards to that project. And they'll reach out to you based on your works. You understand? So just focus on being committed to whatever it is you're doing. Just stay consistent. Uh, Thinking about being an expert kind of, in a way, puts unnecessary pressure on you and puts like idealistic goals in your mind, right? But just and another thing I have to say is if you're targeting like a specific industry, let's say you have specific goals, let's say you want to work for a food industry, right? Then you put out works that relate to um branding for food industries, you follow, and things like that. So you know what you're targeting. So basically, all in all, just continue to be a design enthusiast, right? You taking this class proves that you are. So just keep on improving yourself, practice and practice and practice. So that's what I have to say for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph. That was very, very elaborate. One thing that I'll add to that is to constantly continue to design. Joseph mentioned it as well, to continue to design and continue to put your work out there. So a lot of designers actually post on Instagram a lot. Instagram is a very visual platform, so it makes sense to put your visual work on a visual platform. So what people do is that they do fake projects, and fake projects, they just come up with a content, or you can go to websites where they have like fake brands. You don't really have to like have a client per se, or you can tell your friend that, imagine you have a business, what would the name be? What would you want the business to be like? And design an identity for it and post your work. So even if you don't have client jobs, continue designing and posting, right? People will definitely see your work, though there are still other strategies to getting clients, but establishing yourself as a brand identity designer starts from there. So that's a very good one. So we already talked about elements of design. Someone asked the elements of a brand identity. What are the best graphic softwares for branding? So I wouldn't say that there is a best graphic design software for branding. What I would say is that there are many softwares, but from industry standard, right, it's Adobe Illustrator that a lot of people use. And Adobe Illustrator is good. I'll be honest, it's very good, because even Adobe Illustrator is used for fashion as well. Is that good, right? So Adobe Illustrator is there. You have CorelDRAW. CorelDRAW was popular at the beginning, right? But not so popular now. Though a lot of people still use CorelDRAW, but it's not as popular as Adobe Illustrator now. Then we have Affinity Design. I think it's Affinity Design or Affinity Graphics. Either of those two. We also have that as well. So those are softwares that you can use to design brand identities. So
yeah, I have something to add to that. Sorry.
Okay.
If you weren't going to question. So the main purpose for industry standards is like do I need to use a different illustration? Okay. The main purpose for industry standard is for synergy, right? So let's say you've worked on something and you're handing over project files to a particular company or business, right?
Yeah.
And they are going to keep on developing designs based on the guidelines that you've created for them, based on the identity that you've created for them. And you're not the one that's going to work on it. Other people are going to work on it. So aside from the guidelines, right, for the files and assets that you have produced for them, if they don't have similar software to what you use, then they won't be able to make appropriate changes. I don't know if you follow. And it's also for when you have to work on collaborations, right? You're working on collaborations, like Sheba mentioned earlier. You're trying to do this really large project, and then you need an illustrator, you need someone who's really good with pattern work. You need someone who is really good with photo manipulations and stuff like that. That's why like Adobe is kind of like an industry standard. They've created that whole synergy across all of their what's it called, all of their software. Like there's synergy that you can easily work across softwares without having features and issues and trying to and facing like making contingencies and all of that stuff. So I hope you guys get that.
Yeah. Yes. So we have one last question before we take this one. We have a question in the chat. So if I take that one, we have this one. So this person said, how do you get your clients to pay you well and go for brand design instead of just a logo? How do you handle clients that want more for less charges? So I'll answer the last one first. So I always go by a rule. First of all, when you're starting, your focus is not actually the money. Your focus is actually building your portfolio, building your network, and establishing yourself in the industry. So at that stage, you're not thinking about the charge. But at that stage, you should actually be chasing big people to actually, do some work for them and say, oh, let them actually be happy with what you did so that they can recommend you to people that will actually value your work. So at that stage, that's where your focus is. But then as time goes on, when you start to have your business, or I'll call it a business, yes, established, you want to start understanding the value of what you do. Now, whenever you're selling design to somebody, you're not selling the design you're doing, you're selling the results of the design. Like I said, if you look at PiggyVest today, let's assume that I was the one that designed for PiggyVest, right? And I want to bag another client. I'm not going to tell them that, oh, my designs are fine, I'm able to do this, I'm able to do that. No, I'll tell them that this is what we have done for another brand. This is the brand identity that we created for PiggyVest, and this is the success that they've had. And this is something that you can also achieve as well. So you're selling the idea that, oh, their business will actually get to the next level. Because see, business owners, they are your customers, right? And what's in their mind is money, how to get more income to sustain their business. So I'm able to understand this because I also have other businesses, right? So I already have that entrepreneurship mindset. So even you as a designer, you're working with an entrepreneur, you're working with someone that is in business, you're working with someone that thinks money constantly. So even you yourself have to understand that fact. So when you're approaching your clients and talking to them, you're talking to them from that angle, not just telling that, oh, they're going to throw money at you and they don't even know how they're going to get their money back. And that's why branding and marketing always goes together. And that's why I actually chose to start an agency, because I know that working with an agency or working as an agency gives me more chances of connecting with a marketing agency to work with. So when I do brand identities for brands, I'm able to say, oh, this stuff that we've done for you, you can use it to market your products. Because that's your point. You're not obviously going to design this stuff for them and like it's going to just be in their Google Drive. It's going to be out there in public, right? So when you're talking to clients, you're talking to them from this angle of this is the result that they can get. That way they will actually be confident and say, oh, this money that I'm going to pay is worth right? Oh wow. Someone said I can't hear you. Can you guys hear me? Let me mute on. Okay, you can hear me now. Okay, please let me know when you guys stopped hearing me. I hope it's not from when I started or when Joseph stopped. Okay. Okay, let me just go on. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, when you're basically talking to clients, you're talking to them from the revenue standpoint. You were talking about explaining to brands that can use designs to market to, okay, yeah. So yeah, I was saying that, yeah, explain to brands that they can use the designs that you do to market, get money, right? Those are the things that you basically want to talk to them about and convince them that yes, they actually need a full-on brand identity system. And then you also have the responsibility to educate business owners that they need more than just a logo, right? it's not just logo that is going to get them to where they are. You can use examples of other big brands that you see and ask them that, don't you want your business to become this? Don't you want your business to get to this point? Obviously, if you want your business to get to the point where Nike is, or where, let me use Nike, let me use Ofre. Ofre is a fashion brand, where all these big brands in Nigeria are, you definitely are not going to just working on a logo, because those brands, as you can see, they have more than that. Basically, you have to show them practically what they can get aside from just a logo. There's a lot of convincing, I'll be honest. That's why I said, like, it's a lot of stress, right? Getting clients and like communicating with them. It can even frustrate you sometimes, but it's worth it, right? When you're able to communicate with these people like this and show them that this knowledge that you have, they're able to trust you more. And the chances that they actually pay you the money that you demand is higher than when you just say, oh, what do you need? Oh, I need a logo. Okay, I can design a logo. And then you say, okay, take 5K. Okay, I'll do it. And then you do it. Like, it's more than that. You understand? So basically what you get at the end of all the stress of convincing your clients is basically, worth it, right? And then you also have to look at who you're targeting. You won't be targeting a small business owner that just started a hair business. She won't have the money to pay for such a job, right? You're going to be looking at businesses that are looking to scale, that are looking to take their business to the next level. Okay, so that's the last question that we have on record. Someone has a question here in the chat that says, my questions are there online schools where one can be certified as a brand designer? Sadly, first of all, let me not say sadly. There are schools where you can be certified as a designer, where you can actually graduate like in university, but they are not in Nigeria. Right. And this is actually the goal, that school where someone can actually graduate the diploma in graphic design here in Nigeria. Right. But for online schools, we have our graphic design, brand design course coming up next month. I already mentioned that earlier. So you can obviously pre-order that, and we also give certificates for that, and you can use that to apply for jobs. Usually when people seek for graphic designers in Nigeria, they don't actually ask for your certificates or your anything like that, because they know that there are no schools like that in Nigeria, like that give you like a diploma certificate, but you have like online courses and stuff. So we have one that is coming up, so you can always enroll for that, and you'll be issued a certificate at the end once you're done taking the course. Second question is, what does your typical ordering process looks like? Thank you. Ordering process. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by ordering process. If you could, maybe you can unmute yourself, Temitope, and ask the question so I can understand well. It's sounding like you're asking about the onboarding process when you get a client, like when someone like comes to meet you for a job. But let me know. You can unmute.
Yeah, thank you very much. You've actually answered the question, so I don't think there will be need for that again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's awesome. So I guess that's questions from everybody. Okay, so let me share my screen one last time to show you guys just a glimpse of Ganeta Art School. So Ganeta Art School is a subsidiary of Ganeta Industries. It's a place where African creatives can learn different skills in art and design, from fashion design, brand design, product design, to sculpting, painting, crocheting. Basically, it's a school vast with creative skills. We have our own platform. We use Editor X and Wix. So we have our own application via Wix. So I'm going to send details for everyone to access this. And then there's a group for brand designers, as you can see here in this screenshot. There's a group here for brand designers where it's going to be more active soon by the time we have more members in the group. So basically we're sharing tips, resources, links to different, like I mentioned in class today, links to different portfolios, all our free classes that will be coming up, basically getting updates there. So you can simply just download the app, Spaces by Wix. Information will be given to how you can access Ganeta Art School on Spaces by Wix via your email. So just look out for your email. You can also log in via our website. So if you go to our website, you can always like create an account and log in and still have access to all of this. So this is basically everything that we have to offer you at Ganeta Art School. We're glad to have you here, and we'll really appreciate if you guys still stay with us in this small and growing community. We're bound to learn a lot. And also feel free to check our paid programs that we have for you as upcoming graphic designers. So with that being said, that'll be the end of today's class. I appreciate everyone for coming today. just another 1 minute. If anyone has any question that is just coming up now, feel free to ask in 1 minute. Okay, so in the absence of any more questions, then I'll see you guys in another class. Bye. Good night, everyone. Let's unmute and say good night to ourselves.
Okay, good night. Thank you so much.
You're
Good
welcome.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.